Hello, everyone, and good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing this time with us. Let's wait until more assistants. I can see that many assistants are joining us. So let's wait a couple of minutes so people can connect. In the meantime, if someone can tell us through the comments, you will see a section where you can leave your comments to tell us if you can hear and see us, our expert, and me from the marketing department, if you can see everything well. Okay. Let's see. Okay, let's start. So I will, in the meantime, that people are joining, I will start introducing myself. My name is Fiorella. I'm from the marketing department. I work at the IVF Life Alicante clinics, which is one of the clinics of the group. And I'm just here to introduce you to one of our experienced fertility experts, Dr. Manuel Izquierdo, who works at one of another clinic of our group, which is IVF Life Madrid. And I will also introduce you to the topic that he will address today, this evening. So Manuel Izquierdo is a gynecologist that has, with 28 years of experience in the assisted reproduction field. And he is also continuously devoting himself to be involved and updated with the latest advances in the field. So that's why he's always taking part of the latest medical and scientific congresses and conferences. And he's currently working at IVF Life Madrid clinic, as I said before, and he's gynecologist, fertility specialist, and also medical quality director of the whole group. So who better than him to explain us and to address this topic of today's webinar. And the topic of today is a fascinating one from all perspectives, but is especially relevant when it comes to egg donation treatment. So in this webinar, we will focus on the impact that epigenetics and genetics has on the fertility journey, especially on the egg donation treatment, because one of the main concerns, as you know, when you are starting or considering to start an egg donation treatment, is that this option, it feels like it will deprive us of the opportunity to have a baby with our own genetic heritage. So it kind of feels like a loss. And that's where epigenetics comes into place. We will see that the truth is that there's so much more that we can pass on our baby, and then the biological material, and there's science basis behind. That's what our expert will explain, and we'll go into details. And basically, epigenetics shows us that there's so much more that we can give of us to our baby, because also the process, the gestational process that the mother embodies also matters, and where the embryo grows and develops, and also the life that the baby is going to experience itself, it also matters and has a role. And defining and the expression of genetics in the baby. So we will see that epigenetics shows us that the environment has a huge influence on the expression of genetics in our baby. So that's being said, and before the doctor take the lead and start with the presentation, which is a very inspiring one, by the way, I just wanted to remind you that you will find a Q&A section somewhere on your screen, and I want you to encourage you to feel free to ask your questions, to free your mind of doubt. We are in a safe space. The doctor is devoting his time to help, to answer your questions. And because this is really meant to be more than just an informative webinar. We want you to be part of it, and we want it to be very interactive. So feel free to open your heart and ask all your questions, because I want you to remind you that they are completely anonymous. Okay, so I will disappear for half an hour more or less, and we will see each other again after in the Q&A section. So thank you so much, Manuel. I leave you the floor.
Thank you, Fiorella, for your kind words. Good evening to everyone. And as Fiorella has briefly told in the introduction, we are going to discuss today egg donation and the relationship between genetics and epigenetics. Maybe we are going to tell about what genetic is or means, and epigenetics. Epi is a root word coming from Greek language and means over. Epi means over. Epigenetics will mean over genetics. So with this approach, we are going to discuss about all of these questions. What's genetics? Genetics is a field in the biology dedicated to the study of the genes and the transmission of the inheritance. We can define the genetics as the letters containing our code, our inner code, like it was a cooking recipe book. More about this means that our genetics is condensed in 46 chromosomes, the basic genetical structure. When we are asking the patients to perform a blood test called karyotype, we are telling the patients to have the information about this chromosomal constitution. These chromosomes inside are containing a lot of genes. As you can see, about 30,000 genes. And every gene is able to develop or to modulate a mean number of 3 proteins. So, epigenetics will be the changes we are making to this basic recipe. The recipe is the same, but some modulators, some factors are making these genetics to change, having the same code, the same letters. This recipe will be some kind different depending on who is cooking this recipe. This will be a branch of the biology studying the changes in the DNA activity with no changes in the code contained in this DNA. So how can epigenetics could act over our DNA code? We call about mainly methylation. Methylation is biological processes by which a methyl group, a radical group containing carbon, hydrogen, is added to a molecule and modified to enhance or repress its activity. In DNA methylation, a methyl group is added either to cytosine or the adenine nucleotide. This is a specific words in our field of the DNA molecule, and modifies the nucleotides to repress the function of this gene transcription and prevent the expression of genes. It looks like, if you can see this picture, this methylation in the DNA is blocking the evolving DNA for performing the role. The role could be the transcription for making the proteins. Histones are any other components in the DNA, and they could be blocked in the same way by methylation and less times by acetylation. In summary, some changes, adding some molecules over this DNA or histones, are able to modify the action of this DNA coding. What's the difference between the cells in the body? The human body is comprised of trillions of cells. Over 200 types of cells make up our organs, bones, muscles, nervous system, etc. All our cells are having similarities such as a membrane on the outer surface and organelles, structures that perform cellular functions like mitochondria within the cell. However, when comparing a basic cell such as a skin cell to a nervous system cell or neuron, there are fundamental differences in cellular structure, function, and replication. They look very different. The genome doesn't just vary from person to person, it also varies from cell to cell. The differentiated cells types of the adult body contain a genome as complete as any embryo. This demonstration has led to the proposal that changes in the gene expression, rather than losing genetic material, could play a key role in guiding and maintaining cell differentiation. So, once again, changes in the expression of genes is modifying how cells are growing, differentiating, and going to perform any different function. This is any other example. Let's talk about twin pregnancies. These basic pictures you can see is containing a different stage embryo. The first one, morula, between day 4, around day 3, day 4. If this embryo divides, we are having two embryos that we call the chorial diamniotic. Okay, the division is performed in every structure, the placenta, the amniotic sac, etc. When this division is performed later, when we are facing a blastocyst stage embryo, day 5, day 6, we have a monochorionic sharing the same placenta and two amniotic fluid sacs. And if this division is performed later, around day 8, 9, 10, we are having two babies, two embryos, sharing the same amniotic fluid sac and placenta. And if this division, this is so uncommon, is performed very late, later than day 13, 14, we have conjoined embryos sharing or having joined some parts of the bodies. I'm telling you for this reason. The interaction between genes and interaction between genes and environment during pregnancy and after birth could make the final decision, the final picture of who we are. We are the result of a multitude of these kind of interactions. Getting back to the twins, you can see these two pictures. They are coming from very important photographers, Peter Zalewski and Francois Brunel, and they are looking like pictures of twins, Julie and Sophie, and Omar and Martin. They look very similar. They are twins. They are looking very quite similar. But you could be surprised because the actual twins are Julia and Sophie, but not Domar and Martin. Peter Zalewski is specialized for a lot of years, taking pictures of twin people, of twins. And François Brunel, on the other hand, is performing up to date 250 pair of looking like people. This means they are not relatives, they are not family, they are looking quite similar. Brunel has taken photos in 25 countries for a very surprising project called I'm Not a Lookalike. So this is a very curious picture telling in the end that maybe our genes are not equal, but we can modify in a way that sometimes make us to look very similar. Very curious picture as well, this comparison between genetics. This is the comparison about the genetic differences. In the human race, between humans, the main difference could be as much as 0.1%. Very low differences. We share same genetics, 99.9% of our genetics is the same compared with any other human being, compared with any other races. Compared with chimpanzee, for example, we are sharing 96% of our genetics with them. With cats, about 90%. With mouse, surprisingly, 85% of our genetics is common with the mouse. And with the banana, 60% of the genetics is the same like the human beings. So when we are telling about differences in genetic terms, is due in the human race, is due to a very low difference in our genetics. Some epigenetic questions are leading to heart diseases. It's not so common. It is only for you to know that what we call genomic imprinting sometimes make that some genes coming from one of the parents is not expressing or is expressing. And this variation of parental imprinting is making sometimes to have some diseases. Very uncommon, very uncommon. This is only for telling you, for making you know that these modifications in the expression of genes sometimes could lead to some not so common diseases. The epigenetic characteristics are modified even during embryonic development. During the gametogenesis, this means when our oocytes and sperm is in maturation processes. Even before this gametogenesis, when we are telling about primordial germ cells in the uterus of our mothers, and during the embryo inside the embryo before implantation as well. So epigenetics is acting all the time. What about epigenetic factors? We have several lifestyle factors identified that maybe could modify epigenetic patterns, such as our diet, obesity, physical activity, tobacco, alcohol consumption, environmental pollution, psychological stress, working on night shifts, etc. High calorie intake, malnutrition, alcohol, obesity should be limited when we are thinking about our epigenetics, how this could modify our genetics. In a way, we are going to have some bad interactions. About stress is not clearly identified, but some papers are telling about a light increase in asthma in children when we are having this stress. So there is a lot of research needed for confirming all of this. What about toxins? Maybe we need to remember that all these substances are a toxic effect in our bodies, but sometimes even modifying our genetic expression. Heavy metals, cadmium, chromium, plastics like phthalate. Phthalate is involved in, for example, plastic wrap and plastic food containers made from PVC, which carries a recycling tag. These phthalates are toxic, but they are having a short half-life. And as long as our detox pathways are working correctly, we are able to metabolize and remove these phthalates from our body in very few hours. Mycotoxins, for example, soy and derived products contain isoflavones that mimic the actions of estrogens. Estrogens are the woman's hormone, the women's hormones, and may exert adverse effect on male fertility. So sometimes these endocrine disruptors could interact in the epigenetics. So after this explanation about epigenetics and the role of epigenetics modifying our inner DNA code, we need to link these findings with egg donation. As Fiorella in the introduction was telling, maybe the main concern when we are facing egg donation is we are losing our genetics. The baby, the newborn will be very different for us. This is not true because epigenetics is playing a great role in the way that the same embryo in different uterus, in different mother, will be very different because the gene expression is modulated by the epigenetics of the woman who is having this pregnancy. What about egg donation here in Spain? We are under a very complete regulation. The first Spanish fertility law was placed in 1988. We are having 3 fertility laws in Spain, and the last one, the actual one, the today's Spanish law is set on 2006, and this Spanish law is allowing donation of remaining embryos if the parents are not going to use them. But we are having a very intense and very huge egg donation program coming from anonymous, voluntary, and altruistic donators. These egg donors, are very, very intense, are selected under a very intense study containing genetic study, psychological evaluation, medical evaluation, blood test, karyotype, discarding the most genetic inheritance problems commonly seen in our area. So this Spanish law is taking into account all this the experience in Spain for a lot of years. Why we think Spain is very demanded place for egg donation? Maybe we are thinking because of our legislation, or legislation coming from about 30 years of experience. We are very used to this treatment, this egg donation, embryo donation, etc. And we are having very good success rates. And as well, I would like to remember that because of the legislation, the regulation in Spain, Spain is very used to not only to gamete donation, but to organ donation. Brief summary about egg donation going to embryo transfer here in our group in IVF Life. We are searching for a good donor under the regulation mandatory in Spain. And once we have the donor and patient's partner sperm, we are going to make the embryos, and we are going to prepare the endometrium, stimulate the previously stimulation of the donor, egg retrieval, embryo development, and we are working today. Our gold standard is working with day 5 embryos, blastocyst stage embryos. This whole procedure, once a couple decide to go to egg donation, is not taking more than 6 to 8 weeks between the first appointment and the embryo transfer. This work is behind. There is a lot of work, because I want you to know that the main statistics when we are having egg donor candidates, you can see that about of every 500 donor candidates, we are only accepting 100 because of the legal obligations related mainly on age. In Spain, we are needing to comply with age of the donors between 18 and up to 35 years old. Not any other health condition in the family, personal health condition, etc., make us to discard many of these donor candidates. So we are starting with 500, we are having with these conditions 100 only. And then when we are going to match with the patient phenotype, we are only having about 20 of these 100 accepted egg donor candidates. And this number could decrease because it's mandatory in the Spanish law, the medical checkup for accepting the matching between the donor and the patient. And sometimes we are needing to have a genetic match, because sometimes the male partner is carrying a condition related with genetics that should be discarded as well in the egg donor. So this procedure, maybe sometimes you are thinking, we are having one donor from the beginning and this is my donor in the end. No, we are starting with a lot of donor candidates, and these processes are needed for searching for the best donor for every case in a very personalized way, and complying with the mandatory rules here in Spain. So this is the way we are working in IVF Life group today. In summary, I would like to give you a take-home message that could be not genetic is very important, is our inheritance, but when we are going to egg donation, we need to know that for sure we are modifying the genetics, and this baby could be very different if this baby is inside the womb of any other woman. So we can give our pregnancy a special way of developing and a personalized expression of the genetics, because it's our pregnancy. Okay, so Thank you for your attention and open to any other question that the audience could have. Thank you.
Hello again, and thank you so much, Manuel, for this eye-opening webinar, and especially for your inspiring take-home message that I hope everyone get. And well, let's open to this Q&A session. So I can see we have a few questions. So let's wait until a few more come in, and we can start asking our expert. I insist, please feel free to ask. And again, it's a safe space, and our expert is really here just to help you. So let's start with the first one. So one of our assistants, Manuel, is asking us, how do you do the matching to mother to donor, and what are the criteria being matched, such as she or he, they put an example, the assistant put an example, eye color, hair color, what are the criteria for the matching?
Very good question. It's mandatory by Spanish law to match the phenotype, the physical characteristics. So in the way the assistant is asking, we match eye color, hair color, the ethnicity of the person, of the woman. We match how tall, the weight, all the physical characteristics. We have a formulary for being filled by the woman and the couple, for having the picture of the physical phenotype of this woman and trying to match as much as possible. And at the same time, we are even offering the patients the opportunity to send us or to give us a picture of their face, trying to increase the matching. But it's mainly based on the physical characteristics. This is regulated by the law. This is like the Spanish law is telling, you need to match the physical characteristics of the receiver with the donor. And this match should be under the direction of a medical team. So this is physical phenotype.
Yes, Manuel says there's a strict protocol for these matters at IVF Life group. So another of our assistants is asking, do you check family history for donors in terms of disease?
Yes, we need to check family history in two ways. The first one, asking the donor by itself. Sometimes people is telling, oh, the donor could not tell you about this. People is not knowing what is the reason for you to ask about familiar diseases. And we are very open always to tell the doctor about very important questions in our family related with health conditions. But not only this, remember I was telling you that the Spanish authorities, the Spanish law is asking to perform always and discarding these very common genetic diseases that sometimes we are carrying with not knowing we are carrying. This recessive inheritance is related, for example, with cystic fibrosis, muscular spinal atrophy, some kind of the genetic deafness, and this relation with X-fragile chromosome, for example. Maybe some of these diseases you have never heard about of them, but we are mandated to perform an investigation with genetic tests for discarding these inherited genetic risk factors in the donors. So asking the donors in the first step and performing genetic blood tests for discarding the more common genetic questions related with familiar history in our area. Okay.
So another viewer, Manuel, is asking if there are any restriction on age for mothers.
Okay. I was telling a brief in the brief summary. Maybe I was telling about some question related with this. In Spain, is only allowing the egg or embryo donation between 18 years old and 35 years old. The reasons for this is in Spain the competence for legal questions in Spain is over 18 years old. In some other countries, for example, I remember that maybe in Italy it's about 20 years old, the law is allowing to donate, but in Spain it's 18 years old. And the upper limit is related 35 years old, is related with the chances of this embryo, this egg, to have some chromosomal abnormality because of the increasing age increases the risk of chromosomal abnormalities in the egg and in the embryo. And the ovarian reserve is better under 35 years old. The ovarian response to the medical stimulation treatment is better, and we are having more chances of having a very good embryo and an implanting embryo when we are having donors under 35 years old. So these are the main reasons why, because the Spanish law is limiting and not permitting over 35 years old egg donation.
Another assistant is asking something that I think it's quite common and also reasonable. That is, can the donor ever be known to the child?
No, in Spain we are having today an anonymous egg donation model. So you will never know the donor will never know you. At this point, I always tell my patients, the Spanish law tells to keep the data, to keep the record in the clinic about the link between the donor and the receiver. Just in case in the future is needed to contact the donor for any medical question, we are keeping this data, but never available for the donor or the receiver. Anonymous model at all in Spain at this moment.
Yes, the doctor says just in emergency cases.
Yes.
Like life or death or something like that.
Yes, yes. Not very common.
Well, an assistant just try to make sure that, don't worry, this is gonna be recorded and also uploaded to our YouTube channel. Also, if you wanted to share it with someone, or you will have access to this webinar. And then someone is asking, what's the success rate for women over 47 years old?
Going to egg donation, the same success rate like being 40 years old, 42. It doesn't depend on your age. It depends on egg donation.
And then another of the assistant's concern is about, quite common one, about the test that donors undergo.
Yes, maybe we have answered this question in some factors. We need to have medical examination, we need to have psychological evaluation, we need to have sexually transmitted diseases testing, we need to have a normal karyotype, and we need to discard the most 5 common conditions related with genetic inheritance: cystic fibrosis, genetic deafness, muscular spinal atrophy, some hereditary anemia, and X-fragile chromosome syndrome. Very, very complete testing of the donors.
Someone else is asking if, do you have various ethnicity of donor X?
Yes, we need to match the ethnicity. Exactly. So the main donors here in Spain are Caucasian, but we are having donors coming from other regions of the world, any other ethnicities. We need to take this into account. And the not so common ethnicities sometimes are provided because we are having frozen eggs of these not so common ethnicities. Okay.
Then we have, maybe it's not too a medical question, but someone is asking what makes our clinic different from other IVF clinics. I think, and then Manuel will add, the personalized touch that we give in each step of the treatment.
Maybe it's a combination. We all are working under the same regulation, but we take a lot of care from my point of view in two main questions. We take so much care selecting the donors, but maybe much care matching the donors. Because this matching is on our side, we need to be more careful. And the other differentiating characteristic of our group is we have a lot of experience. All the gynecologists and embryologists and teams are having a lot of experience, a lot of years. And we are working with the the most innovative technologies, supplying the best test for knowing the endometrial receptivity, etc. Some other questions not related mainly with egg donation that could improve the results as well.
And someone is asking, if I wanted twins, is this possible? And would it be possible to choose boy or girl?
Very short answer and clear answer. In Spain, it's not allowed to select the sex. We are able to know the sex by chromosomal analysis, but it's not allowed to check the sex for selecting the sex of the baby. And you can transfer in Spain up to 3 embryos by Spanish regulation. But today, working with day 5 embryos and having a very good chances of implantation and being very realistic about the risk of twin pregnancy, our main recommendation is only transferring 1 embryo. You have better chances of having a baby at home, having a single pregnancy compared with twin pregnancy. I fully understand that sometimes you are thinking, for us it's better to have twin pregnancy, 2 babies at the same time, etc. But be conscious, have in mind that twin pregnancy is having a very increased risk during the pregnancy. So our main recommendation, transferring only 1 embryo, day 5 embryo, for sure.
And then there are many questions related to how much information the patient can have regarding the donor.
It's regulated by Spanish law. Spanish law is telling the basic characteristics of the donor, not allowing the patient to identify the donor. So we are providing, for sure, the more important things are age of the donor and sometimes the blood group of the donor. This is from the medical side, because age of the donor is related with some genetic risk tests that are performed during the pregnancy. So we will always provide the age of the donor and some basic characteristics, but so basic, not allowing to have a real picture of the, because it's prohibited by the Spanish law. Okay.
And then a very specific one regarding the test, like, is PGTA highly required before egg donation?
PGTA before egg donation, or maybe I don't know if it's asking about PGTA genetic testing of the embryo.
Embryo, I think.
Coming from egg donation. You can have this PGTA tested, this embryo tested for PGTA, but remember that because the limited age for being egg donor is 35, the risk of aneuploidy is very low. So the balance is not so clear. You can ask for genetic testing of this embryo, but Spanish law is considering 35 years old. Remember, I told you for trying to limit the aneuploidy rates of the embryos. Okay.
And then there are many questions regarding cost and how you can contact for consultation. I just want to remind you that you will see in one of our, at the end of the presentation of Dr. Manuel, there's a link and you can find our contact form, and you will automatically get in touch with one of our patient care assistant who will provide you all this information, all these more commercial one, because they will give you more orientative information. So then there's someone who's asking, if the transfer doesn't work multiple times, is it normal to get a success in the end?
For considering repeated implantation failure, we need to have more than one embryo transfer. And with this procedure going to egg donation, when you transfer up to 3 embryos, cumulative pregnancy rate after 3 embryo transfers is more than 95% of the patients being pregnant. So very, very uncommon, no more than 5% of the patients having repeated implantation failure related with any other factor not being the embryo by itself. So high chances of getting pregnant, few chances of having repeated implantation failure, and it's needed to have cumulative failed embryo transfer for defining this repeated implantation failure is happening.
Okay, thank you so much, Manuel. I think we are a little bit running out of time, and I know there are many more questions, but I suggest you, especially if it's a case where you have more personal details to provide, because there are many questions that are more specific. I strongly recommend you to go on our website. You can make an appointment with Manuel Izquierdo and many other experts that we have at IVF Life Madrid if it's this clinic in which you are interested. And also we wanna and you will get your answer. Just I want you to insist on this fact that the ones that you haven't got answered with your questions, if they are more specific, just please get in touch with us, filling in the contact form, and our international patient care assistant will provide you with all the answers. And also, I wanted to remind you that we are constantly offering free informative consultations, and we are always offering. There are many upcoming events during the year, so I strongly recommend you. There are interesting opportunities to meet our expert just for free, to have a first in-person interaction and have a first opinion of an expert. So please, I recommend you to stay tuned. Also to visit our website that is ivflifegroup.com. And also we have Instagram account. Please, we are always, just follow us, because there's always something new regarding treatments, regarding new techniques. We are always trying to be innovative and discover new options, and we invest a lot on, we have our own in-house laboratory and genetic laboratory, and we invest a lot on research. So please stay tuned, and we hope you enjoyed and feel inspired and get so much important information from this webinar. And again, I encourage you to don't hesitate to contact us. So thank you so much for your time. And Manuel, I don't know if you want to add something else. Thank you again for your time as well. For after a long consultations day, having you in this webinar, it's an honor as well.
Thank you for your words, Fiorella. Thank you to all the audience for having this time with us. And I would like the goal for this presentation will be mainly, as I was telling you at the beginning, to try to clarify the genetic impact of going to egg donation and trying to decrease the level of stress or anxiety when you are facing going to egg donation. This is a very implanted process. We know for sure what to check, and for the peace of mind of the patients, they modify the genetics, they modify the factors and make their baby special because this baby was growing inside their bodies. So thank you, all the audience. Thank you to you, Fiorella, for your assistance and your words. And looking for a new opportunity to share our knowledge and our expertise in the IVF Life group.
Thank you, Manuel, and thank you to all of you. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.